Are we on mute? Okay, sorry, Matt, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, I think I have, do I have to start over? No. Okay, Matt. Well, if we were. Okay, so Matt, I'd like you to advise the public how notice was provided. I know you didn't hear my intro, but we're there. We're at you now.
Thank you. So notice of public hearing was posted in the municipal office and was sent by mail to the assessed owners within 120 meters of the property, subject for the proposed zoning bylaw amendments this evening, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent on May 25th, 2022, being over 20 days prior to this evening's meeting. Included with the notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and a key map showing the location of the subject property.
Thank you. Now I declare this portion of the hearing to be a public hearing to deal with application number ZBA 21-12FR, Municipality of French River. Monsieur Dumont, would you please summarize the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to this application?
Thank you. So there's a little bit of history and context to prior to getting into this application this evening. So first off, there was an official plan amendment that was submitted on behalf of the agent. That took some time because the approval authority is the province when you undertake an official plan application. So that took over a year. And while we were working on that, I was trying to be proactive. So once we did get the approval from the province, we could kind of streamline this application, which we're doing this evening. So the official plan amendment was approved by the province back in April of this year. And so once we got the approval in place, I wanted to initiate this bylaw amendment application, which the intent of this application this evening is to change the zoning from institutional 1 to commercial community with special provision under the current zoning bylaw for the municipality of French River. So the intent of the application tonight is to permit the development of the land to retain the existing dental office that's presently there, and to convert the remainder of the space of the unit into 4 dwelling units. So this will facilitate an adaptive reuse of the 1-story building, which is currently, like I noted, a dental office. So the dental office has been occupied since 2016. It is approximately 1/3 of the area below grade. The main floor of the 1-story building would be converted to 3 apartment units. And the remaining area below grade would be proposed to be converted into 1 apartment unit. With respect to the official plan, there's supportive comments with respect to section 2.2.3.1 as well 0.12 regarding medium density residential developments as long as it's within the 4-plex dwelling unit, which is being permitted. It also promotes small scale development in terms of commercial and personal service uses, which again refers back to the dental office as an existing use. So really the zoning tonight is more of technical in the sense that when you're converting, that institutional use to a commercial, community commercial for those 4 additional units, there's some other provisions in the bylaw that we have to kind of clean up. And that special provision is kind of going to speak to the driveway aisle. So when you make this change in zone use, you have to look at some of these items. So these 4 items will be addressed along with the residential units in the special provision of this bylaw. So the first item is to permit a drive aisle width of 11 meters, where a maximum of 9 meters is required. The second item is to permit a driveway access ramp of 26 meters, where a maximum of 9 meters is required. The third item is to permit 0 loading spaces, where 1 loading space is required. And the last item is to permit 1 dwelling unit below grade in the front of a commercial use. So those 4 items will be addressed in the special provision bylaw. And with that said, with respect to the agency comments, the municipality had no concerns or comments with respect to the application. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, this kind of just started way back in almost a year ago, August 3rd of 2021. Again, that was relating to the official plan amendment. So they did provide their one window comments. And so from there, I've kind of championed that process for over the last year to where we are now to kind of finally wrap everything up and move forward with the sale of the property. And Who Well Drilling Limited at the time did provide comments regarding the existing well and making sure, just ensuring that there is sufficient capacity with the well to accommodate the 4 units. So all those things were kind of looked at by the province and were approved by the province. So this is with everything being said, this is the easy part, knowing that the province has already approved everything. So with that said, the application this evening does meet the intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw for the municipality of French River, and also conforms to the provincial legislation, that being the PPS 2020.
Okay, thank you. Now I see we have Vanessa Smith, I believe. Vanessa, you're representing Dr. Lapin. And so do you have a presentation or any comments you want to make to council?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I do have a short presentation for you all this evening.
Go ahead. I didn't hear you, sorry.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect, okay, I'll hold the mic. So I will keep this relatively brief. So yes, we are proposing to rezone the lands from institutional 1 to commercial community in order to permit the adaptive reuse of an existing 1-story building. And as part of the rezoning, we are looking to permit the existing dental office and convert the remainder of the building into 4 dwelling units. We are of the opinion that the application promotes good planning as it creates diverse housing options, promotes a mix of uses, and overall makes better use of land servicing, given that it proposes this adaptive reuse. As part of the rezoning, we do require some site-specific reliefs that Matt detailed for us previously. These reliefs are seen as appropriate as they are the result of the site's existing condition, and they should not cause any impact to the abutting low-density residential uses, the road network, or hinder the navigability of the site, given that we anticipate really low traffic generation. Other than that, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone for their hard work over the past 18 months, but more specifically, Matt and the planning board. This process took much longer than we had all anticipated, given COVID-19 and the province's approval timelines. And the planning board always acted promptly on their end and even scheduled tonight's hearing the moment we got our OPA approvals. So I think that they deserve a round of applause for that. As always, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any members of the public online or here. So any members of council have any comments or questions? Seeing none. Well, Randy, do you have questions? I can't see you way down there.
Okay. No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So if there's no further questions, then I declare this public hearing to be concluded. It is now in order for a council member to make a motion and for council to consider the application. So I need a mover and a seconder to approve this. Dean and Bob. All those in favor?
Is,
Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to read it.
You're going to read it?
Yes,
Sorry.
it is duly moved and seconded. We resolve that bylaw 2022-33 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-23 as amended, Municipality of French River, be read at first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All right. Now, all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. All right. Please give my best to Dr. Lapin.
Thank you. I'm sure they'll be very excited when I let them know.
Right.
Have a great night, guys.
Okay, so just one more thing, just be advised that there's a 20-day appeal period, which at any time a person or a public body may then not later than 20 days after the day of the giving of the written notice as required by Section 3418 of the Planning Act is completed. Make an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing with the clerk of the municipality a notice of appeal setting out the objections to the bylaw and the reason in support of the objection, accompanied by a fee prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal. During this appeal period, good afternoon, Renee. All right, so let's move on. Thank you again, and my best to Dr. Lapin. Let's move on to the next application. So now I do declare this portion of the hearing to be a public hearing to deal with application number ZBA 22-FR. Adam and Carol Radu and Daniel Hébert. Monsieur Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So this application, just to give you a little bit of context, we had our planning board meeting last Thursday. So this application and the next application you'll be hearing were concurrent applications, and both applications for severance were approved by the planning board. So this is just more of like, again, technical in nature. So I just wanted to give that context because it's very important having the severance, approved, and then concurrently having the zoning bylaw amendment application heard this evening. So the intent of the rezoning application for this specific application is to accomplish two things. One is the severed lot that was approved, it's undersized. So looking at that severed lot, the proposed acreage was 0.62 hectares. So we needed not only to rezone it from rural to residential rural, but we needed to add a special number to it as well to recognize the deficiency in acreage. So not only you're going to have the RR zone or residential rural zone, but there'll be a regulation speaking to that specific area. So that's the first item for the severed lot. And for the retained lands, as noted as part of my presentation on last Thursday, there was also a severance, an easement application or right of way that was supported by the board to grant legal continued access on a private road. The owner of the subject property chooses to access an entrance permit from that private road. So as a result of that, we have to look at the zoning again, and the zoning speaks to access onto an assumed road. What that means is that direct means of vehicular passage onto a public right of way that is maintained year round. That's very important. It kind of goes on to look at frontages on public roads or streets. And there's a very important note that speaks to that section that says no person shall erect any building or structure in any zone unless the lot upon which the building or structure is to be erected fronts upon an open public street or has access by legal right of way, which was accomplished last week, that is registered untitled or is accessed by water only. So that key point is has access by legal right of way, which was supported by the board last week. So for that reason, the zoning bylaw application is to recognize zero frontage as per section 6.16 in the zone requirement for that section of 7.22.2. So therefore, the intent of the application tonight is to speak to the severed lot and at the same time address the retained lot. So once it's all said and done and approved, that the individual can sell the home on the severed lot and then can focus on building or getting an entrance permit as well as a building permit for the retained lands, which will be accessed off that private road. So that's the intent and purpose tonight. With respect to agency comments, the municipality of French River had no objection to the severance on Thursday night. They did provide some additional information that would form part of that severance application. They said that the municipal drains are not applicable in this particular case. Road survey and transfer may be required for the proposed severed lot. Parkland dedication will be subject to a minimum contribution of $1,000. And the municipality of French River also stated that would be appropriate for an entrance. So we were just kind of having that dialogue back and forth to ensure that should this go forward, that they would have an entrance permit to the site. So Public Works did confirm that a permit can be issued once the severance is final. So we do have supportive comments from the municipality with respect to that. And the Ministry of Transportation. So I did reach out to the Ministry of Transportation because initially I thought the individual was going to access Highway 528. And because they had supportive comments from MTO. However, that dialogue kind of changed over time, where their intent changed, where they wanted to access the private road, which is a result of why we're here this evening. And Sudbury District Health Unit had supportive comments with respect to the retained and severed lots. So everything aligned in terms of servicing. So with that said, again, this is more just in technical nature and is a condition of approval for the severance application. So therefore the zoning bylaw amendment application with the special provision tonight does meet the intent of our official plan for the planning area, does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw for the municipality of French River, and conforms to our provincial legislation.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have any representatives from the applicants. Okay. And there's no members of the public. So I'll turn it over to council. I just have one question. So tonight we're doing two motions, right? Or is it all under one motion? All under one? Okay. And that's the severance and the retaining, and the other one dealing with the retaining lot? Just the zoning bylaw. Okay, got it. I was getting a little confused there because you said there was 4 applications. But there's 3.
3 separate applications.
Right. Okay.
One resolution for each.
Okay, perfect. All right, any comments, questions with regards to that? All right, seeing none, I declare this public hearing to be concluded. It's now in order for council members to make a motion and for council to consider the application. I need a mover and a seconder. Oh, before we do that, move seconded, yes. Dave and Bob.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-34, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-23 as amended, Adam and Karolaradu and Daniel Lebas be read first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And again, there is a 20-day appeal period at which time no building permits will be allowed to be given out, and anybody wishing to appeal must do so in accordance with section 34(18) of the Planning Act, and the appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing with the clerk at the municipality notice of appeal, setting out the objections to the bylaw and the reasons in supporting the objections, accompanied by a fee prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal. During this period, as I said, there will not be any work permitted or building permits issued. Okay, let's move on to the last one. I now declare this portion of the hearing to be a public hearing to deal with application number ZBA 22-10-11FR, David Mitchell. Monsieur Dumont, again, would you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and provide any additional information and correspondent with regards to this application?
Thank you. So this one is, there's a lot going on with this one. So it can look complicated when you're looking at the aerial imagery diagram. So what I'll do is I'll just take a quick look at the aerial imagery diagram. This is how I kind of learned to explain things a little bit better to the planning board when you have a lot going on with one property. So the aerial imagery, basically, there's 2 things going on at the same time. So I just wanted to combine them all as one report rather than 2 separate individual reports. So what basically occurred last week was that there's 2 separate lot additions, taking land from one parcel and adding it to another parcel. So the intent wasn't to create new land. It was just to transfer one land to another piece of property and just enlarge that property. So those were 2 separate lot additions that were affected last week. And as a result of those two separate applications, there's two separate zoning bylaws, but I'm speaking to it all at once. So basically, the solid white line was the subject property. So that was the property where the transaction was going to say, well, I'm going to take a little bit of land from this solid white property and add it to another property. So what happened there was the first application, there's a solid purple line, and that solid purple line represents an existing property. And the dashed orange line was taking that land from that white piece of property, or the white solid line, taking that and added to the solid purple line. And then the other zoning bylaw amendment application had the same idea. The intent was, we have this existing property, which was represented in the illustration as a solid yellow line. And we were going to take lands from that solid white line and transfer it to that yellow. And so that was represented with that aqua color. So that aqua color that's dashed is taking the land, and it's going to be added to that solid yellow piece of land. So the intent and the purpose of these zoning applications this evening is, if you look at the original parcels of land, the subject properties for the purple and the yellow, they're separate roll numbers. So they're separate individual properties. Right now, they're both zoned commercial community. And so when we're looking at the solid white line property, which is significant in acreage, that property is zoned rural. So when we go through the transaction of adding lands to another property, we want to ensure that that property that's being enlarged has the same zoning. So that's why we're here tonight, because when we take the rural lands and add it to the commercial community lands, we're going to have split zoning. So we can't have that. So the intent of each application, ZBA 10 and ZBA 11, is to ensure once that the lands are added, that it's entirely zoned as commercial community, and it doesn't have half rural and half commercial. So that's the intent tonight for which was referenced as B17 and B18 of 2022 for French River, which again, I don't want to confuse anybody, but it does have the context, just to give it a little bit of context, which was the lot additions from last week. And we're here this evening specifically for the zoning change, which is ZBA 10 and ZBA 11, which is two separate individual properties are benefiting from the addition of these lands.
Okay, the applicant is not here, I see. So I will open it up for council. Any questions for members of council? You guys okay? Randy, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
I didn't hear him.
Not at this
Okay,
time.
not at this time. Okay, thanks. No questions? All right. So if there aren't any questions, I declare this public hearing to be concluded. And now it's in order for a council member to make a motion and for council to consider the application. So I need a mover and a seconder, Bob and Dean. And I'll ask Mr. CAO to read the resolution.
Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-35 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-23 as amended, Dave Mitchell, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor?
In favor?
Thank you. Once again, there's a 20-day appeal period. Should anyone wish to file an appeal, they must do so through the Ontario Lands Tribunal by filing with the clerk of the municipality a notice of appeal setting out the objections to the bylaw and the reason in support of the objections, accompanied by a fee under the fee prescribed under the Ontario Lands Tribunal. During this appeal period, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. Thank you. And no questions. Matt, thank you very much. Again, great work. And I need a motion to adjourn. So moved by Renee and Dean. All those in favor? Thank you. All right,
Good-
we'll see
good
you